The film opens inside the chaotic Los Angeles 911 call center, where operator Jordan Turner handles non-stop emergency calls. Between calls, she jokes with her coworker Flora when two police officers stop by, one of them her boyfriend Paul. During a quick break, Jordan steps outside with Paul and casually invites him to stay over later that night. Back at her station, Jordan answers a call from a terrified young woman named Leah, who says someone is breaking into her house. Leah is alone, and within moments the intruder gets inside. Using the phone's GPS, Jordan dispatches officers and tells Leah to hide and lock herself in a room. As Leah runs upstairs, the intruder searches the house and follows. He spots an open window and Leah's shoes outside, assuming she escaped, and runs downstairs. Unaware, Leah is hiding under her bed. Suddenly, the call drops. Panicked, Jordan calls back, but the ringtone exposes Leah's location. The intruder drags her out, takes her phone, and ignores Jordan's pleas to surrender. He coldly says he's done this before. Jordan hears Leah scream before the line goes dead. Shaken, Jordan retreats to a quiet room, where her supervisor Maddie explains that calling back revealed Leah's hiding spot. Still in shock, Jordan leaves. That night, she has a nightmare and wakes to Paul checking on her. The next day at work, she's visibly rattled. Her shift comes to a halt when the news reports Leah's body has been found in a field in Lancaster. Jordan steps outside for air, joined by Paul. She recalls her late father, an LAPD officer, who once said the job means being the difference between life and death. 6 months later, Jordan is still at the 911 center, but now works as a trainer, guiding new recruits through the demands of the job. Elsewhere, teenagers Autumn and Casey are hanging out at a mall. Autumn rushes off to pick up her brother, leaving Casey behind. In the parking lot, Casey realizes Autumn left her spare phone. While calling her mother, a car nearly hits her. Moments later, the driver grabs her and knocks her unconscious with chloroform. Back at the call center, Jordan introduces trainees to a new operator, just as the operator receives a call from Casey, who has regained consciousness in the trunk, and dialed 911 using Autumn's phone. Casey is hysterical and can barely explain what's happening, forcing Jordan to step in. Jordan calms Casey, but the prepaid phone has no GPS signal. With Maddie's help, Jordan gets Casey to describe where she was taken from and what she remembers. Jordan broadcasts the suspect's description to patrol units, and Officer Pete overhears, relieved to see Jordan back in control. As Maddie begins the process to trace the call, Jordan realizes Casey is on a freeway and talks her through kicking out a taillight from inside the trunk. Casey succeeds and waves her hand through the opening. A passing driver spots it and calls 911, allowing police to identify the highway and license plate, only to discover the kidnapper has swapped plates. When the concerned driver gets too close despite warnings, the kidnapper grows suspicious and suddenly exits the freeway, complicating the search. Off the highway, Jordan tells Casey to search the trunk. She finds paint cans and a screwdriver, but panics upon seeing a shovel. Jordan calms her, promising they'll watch Bridesmaids when this is over, though Jordan instructs her to pour paint out through the broken taillight to leave a trail. But at a red light, another driver notices the leaking paint, alerting the kidnapper. Realizing he's been discovered, the abductor flees to a remote area and threatens Casey, who manages to hide her phone. The concerned driver from earlier follows and parks nearby, clearly suspicious of the man's erratic behavior. When the driver refuses to back off, the kidnapper attacks him, knocking him unconscious with a shovel, then transfers Casey into the man's vehicle. Not long after, Pete and his partner locate the abandoned car, along with blood evidence from the earlier struggle. Pete also finds a shattered bottle of chloroform and realizes it could be used to recover the kidnapper's fingerprints. Meanwhile, Casey tells Jordan that she's been moved to a different car and that the driver is unconscious next to her. As she describes the vehicle, the driver suddenly regains consciousness and begins screaming, alerting the kidnapper. He pulls over, opens the trunk, and brutally kills the man by stabbing him with a screwdriver before placing the body back inside. Devastated, Casey blames herself for his death, but Jordan works to steady her again and instructs her to retrieve the driver's ID so they can identify the vehicle. Low on fuel, the kidnapper stops at a gas station. Casey realizes her phone battery is nearly dead, but sees one last chance. She crawls into the back seat and tries to signal the gas station clerk, while the kidnapper is distracted filling the tank. The clerk notices her and confronts the kidnapper with a knife, ordering him to open the car. Instead, the kidnapper overpowers him, spraying him with gasoline and setting him on fire. No, with yet another rescue attempt failing, Casey is knocked unconscious by her captor. Back at the call center, Jordan grows increasingly desperate as contact with Casey is lost and no sightings of the car come in. Finally, a breakthrough occurs when the fingerprint from the chloroform bottle identifies the suspect as Michael Foster. Paul and his partner head to Michael's home to search for clues and question his unsuspecting wife. At the same time, Michael reaches his destination and opens the trunk, pulling Casey out once again. Michael discovers the phone still connected to the police and instantly realizes he's been exposed. Jordan speaks directly to him, calling him by his full name and telling him that officers are already at his house with his family. The revelation rattles Michael. But when Jordan urges him to give himself up and spare Casey, he coldly replies that he's done this before, then cuts the call. The moment the line goes dead, Jordan understands the truth. Michael is the same man who abducted and murdered Leah 6 months earlier. She immediately alerts Paul, explaining that the call has dropped, but the last GPS signal places Michael in the Santa Clarita Hills, likely at his workspace. Paul suspects the crime may be tied to Michael's deceased sister, noting how much Casey resembles her. He finds an old photograph and asks Michael's wife where the house in the image is located. She confirms it's in Santa Clarita Hills. Using the license plate visible in the photo, Jordan traces the address and warns Paul that Michael is also responsible for Leah's death. Police storm the house but find no evidence connected to the kidnapping. Meanwhile, Michael has taken Casey to an underground bunker where he prepares her for a disturbing medical procedure. He undresses her and straps her to a chair, but Casey manages to slip free and spray him with hairspray before attempting to escape. She doesn't get far, and Michael soon recaptures her. Back at the call center, Maddie urges Jordan to go home, insisting she's done everything possible and that the situation is now in the hands of the police. Jordan refuses to leave, staying late into the night while listening to the faint background sounds from Casey's last call. Paul phones her as officers stop and search passing vehicles nearby, reassuring her that they'll find Casey alive. Unable to sit still any longer, Jordan decides to drive to the old house herself. Inside, she finds photographs of Michael and his sister, revealing that she died of cancer around the same age Casey is now. Discouraged by the lack of new leads, Jordan steps outside until she hears a familiar noise. It's the sound of metal striking a flagpole, identical to the background sound she heard earlier during the call. Searching the yard, Jordan finds Casey's broken phone and then notices a hidden hatch leading underground. After dropping her own phone while trying to report what she's found, she makes a risky decision and climbs down alone. Inside the bunker, Jordan spots Michael preparing something. As he moves toward her, she hides in the room where Casey had been held and stumbles upon a horrifying sight just before he enters. From behind a partially open closet, she watches Michael gently stroke a blonde wig resembling his sister's hair. Blood stains the edges, making it clear the hair was torn from one of his victims. When something angers him, he throws the hair into a small refrigerator already filled with others, proof that Leah wasn't his only victim. Michael returns to Casey, who is now positioned for the surgical removal of her scalp. Desperate, Casey begs him to just kill her, but he says he can't stop himself. As he begins cutting, Jordan strikes him repeatedly with a mannequin head until he collapses. She rushes to free Casey, slicing through her restraints with a scalpel. But Michael regains consciousness and attacks. He overpowers Jordan and forces her head underwater in a tub until Casey slashes his face with a knife. The two women flee the bunker with Michael chasing close behind. Outside, Casey stabs him in the back with surgical scissors, but he barely reacts, pulling them out and turning on her. Jordan kicks him toward the open hatch, and Casey follows up, sending Michael crashing back into the bunker, where he finally loses consciousness. Believing it's over, Jordan reaches for her phone to call for help, but Casey stops her. She has another idea. When Michael wakes up, he's chained securely to the surgical chair inside the bunker. The women choose not to call the police. Instead, They leave him bound and helpless, deciding he should suffer for what he's done. They plan to tell authorities that Casey escaped on her own and that Jordan later found her wandering in the woods. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos.